Hey everyone, welcome to Pages and Pores. My name is Robert. I am in a foul mood, and I'm hoping talking to you good folks will pull me out of it a little bit. My internet has been down virtually the whole day, which means I didn't get any of the things online done that I wanted to do. I barely got my online language lesson in today so I don't lose my streak, but I had to do that on my smartphone. I didn't get to do my bike ride today because my bike ride, I'm using an indoor trainer that's connected through the internet, and so I couldn't get on my bike today. So now I'm a day behind on my bike challenge, so I'm going to have to ride extra miles this weekend to catch up on that. It just irritates me because when you call customer service or plug your number into their little internet page on my smartphone, it says, oh, there's no outage in your area, but then you call the customer service line, they say, oh, there's an outage in your area, we know about it. But it's been, let's see, what time is it? Yeah, it's been like 6-7 hours now, and it's not weather related. We've had perfect weather today, so I don't know what's going on, but it's very frustrating. Anyway, I thought I would do a tag video that I happened to see Mark on Book Time with Elvis do just recently. I thought that sounds like something that I can do without a whole lot of preparation, and I don't need to get online to do it or think too hard about the different questions. I can just kind of react to them. What it is, it's a series of 26 prompts about reading and the bookish world, and you're just supposed to give a quick gut reaction, hot or not. And maybe, a little bit of an explanation if it calls for one. So I thought I would give that a try. So A is for audiobooks. For me, definitely hot. I enjoy audiobooks a great deal in the car. I enjoy them at home. Sometimes I will do the audio and the textbook together, and I really enjoy that experience. B is for Bildungsroman, dealing with a person's formative years or spiritual education. That's hot enough for me. I like a coming-of-age story or a story about somebody's development into whatever person they're becoming. I'm okay with those. C is for children's books. For me, this is a not anymore. My son turns 31 today, so it's not something that I'm actively looking at, children's books. And so for me, that's a not. D is for digital. I'm assuming that means digital books, ebooks. And in that case, generally it's a not for me because reading text online it triggers migraines if I do it too much. And so reading a whole book online is really not good for me. So for me, that's a not. E is for experimental. This is one of those lawyer answers, it depends. Experimental books that I can figure out and can get into, hot. If it's so complicated or so obscure that I have no idea what's going on for more than half the book, not hot at all. So it really depends. F is for fantasy. For the most part, I'm not really a fantasy reader, so that would be a not for me. But I have enjoyed some fantasy books, so occasionally I'll say on an individual basis, hot. But for the overall category for me, it's more of a not. G is for graphic novels. Given that I have never read one, not even one, that's a not for me. There are several that I've meant to pick up and I just never have, so obviously I'm not hugely interested in them. H is for horror. Easy not for me. I just don't do horror. I don't watch horror movies. Even in my beloved K-dramas, I don't watch the horror ones. I don't enjoy being frightened. I is for inspirational. I generally do not read inspirational books, so that's a not for me. J is for journalism. Most of the time, I'm hot for journalistic books as long as they're well written. A lot of journalists aren't really good writers, and so sometimes that can be a drawback. But if a journalist is also a good storyteller, that's a definite hot for me. K is for kitsch. Has a popular or sentimental appeal. This is also a depends, but this is going to surprise some people, but I'm actually hot for these. A book like Frederick Bachman's books. He's very popular, which immediately rules him out as being important to some people. For me, I am more moved by reading some of his books than I am by reading any one of 20, 30 literary novels. So if it's well written and I don't think it's schlock, then it's definitely a hot book for me. L is for library. I don't use the library as much as I used to, but I am hot for the idea that the library is always there as a resource if I need it, and for people who aren't in the enviable position that I'm in of having a lot of books at home. So I'm definitely hot for libraries. And my son is becoming an assistant librarian in the spring, so doubly hot. M is for mystery. This is an occasionally hot. As a rule, I don't read a ton of mysteries, but when I find a mystery series that I really like, I have to read them all, as I've done with the Louise Penny books, as I did years ago with the Dick Francis books. So occasionally I'll find a series that I just really dig into, but I don't generally read mysteries very often. N is for nonfiction. Up until about 4 years ago, I would have said, yeah, I'm kind of lukewarm on nonfiction. But having started the nonfiction division in the Book 2 Prize, that has led me to read a bunch of absolutely terrific nonfiction books. So now I'm a big nonfiction reader, so that's definitely hot for me. O is for Omnibus. Is this like a collection of somebody's essays or something like that? I'm kind of on the fence on that one. Could take it or leave it. P is for poetry. I am not a big poetry reader, so that's a not for me. It was funny, when I was taking my comprehensive exams for my PhD, there was a rumor that floated around the last week before the exams that the professor who was one of the 2 graders for my 20th century British exam didn't like the fact that I wasn't studying a lot of poetry at Penn State. I was doing mostly narrative work because that was my specialty. And the rumor was that he was putting several questions on that particular exam about one specific British poem just to see if I had actually read it or not. And I hadn't when I heard the rumor, but I sure had before the exam. And sure enough, there were some questions on it on that exam. So yeah, I'm not a huge poetry fan, and a lot of people knew it. And one professor at least was not happy about it, but he was happy that I at least read it before the exam. That was one of my better exam scores too. Q is for quests, when the protagonist goes on a quest, physical or spiritual. Absolutely hot. I love quest stories. I love journey tales. I'm all over that. R is for romance. This is a big old it depends. My favorite novel of all time can be considered a romance, Pride and Prejudice. So it really depends. If the writing is good, I love a good romance story. If the writing is terrible and formulaic and generic, I can't be bothered. So it's an it depends. Science fiction. S is for science fiction. That's another on the fence one for me. And David, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but Dune was not for me. So some science fiction books I just can't get into at all. Others I absolutely adore, like The Martian. I thought was wonderful. A great read. So it really depends. I don't, as a rule, read much science fiction. T is for translation. Books translated from one language into another. We added a books in translation, fiction and translation category to the Book 2 Prize one year. It was very popular, and I really enjoyed reading a lot of those books. We just didn't have enough judges to keep that category going easily. But it's opened me up to books in translation that I never would have really approached before. And so for that, I am in favor of the category, hot, although it's not the first thing I usually reach for. U is for Übermensch, the Superman, or the extraordinary human. I'm actually reading a book right now about an Übermensch. And in general, I would say I'm not really hot for that. But this has been a great read. I'm reading The Maniac by Benjamin Labutat, I think is his last name. He's a Chilean author. And this is his first book in English that he's written in English. And it's just terrific. And it's about a polymath mathematician, physicist, and so on. Excellent book. V is for Victorian, literature from 1837 to 1901. I'm all over this category. Love Victorian novels. I'm a huge fan of Thomas Hardy. I can get into the Brontes. I can get into anything in that period. Dickens, most of the time, but it's a great category for me. So that's a definite hot. W is for Western. Most of the time, I'm not attracted to Westerns. So that would be, in general, a not. But on occasion, something like Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove, where I absolutely love the book. Couldn't get enough of it. It was too short. That kind of thing. So it's on a case-by-case basis, but Westerns are not the category I tend to reach for very often. In movies either. X is for X-rated. I don't read erotica. Occasionally I'll read a novel that has a sex scene, and usually I'm embarrassed by the writing. So I would say in general, probably not. I think sex is probably something extremely difficult to write about in a non-ick way. I'm not against it. I just don't see it done very well. So it's not something I seek out. Y is for young adults. I don't really read young adult books anymore. I read a lot of them back when I was teaching 8th graders for 5 years. And I found that although I like them, they all start sounding the same after about 5 or 10 of them. And so now it's a not for me just because I don't have any reason to pick them up. I'm not against the category. I think they are a little bit too formulaic sometimes, but then you'll find one that's not, and it just completely blows you away. So it depends on the writer again. Z is for zeitgeist, spirit or mood of the times. I don't know how anybody can be positive about our current times, between our crazy political climate in the United States, the violence that just never ends in the Middle East. Now we have another breakout of war in Sudan, the war in Ukraine. I guess it's creeping back into Russia as well. It's really hard to be positive about anything in the world right now. So for me, that's a not. And it's hard to read about it all the time and feel helpless to do much about it other than to feel bad about it. That's, I think, my biggest problem with the zeitgeist right now, is that I don't know what I can do other than to keep myself informed, but I'm not sure what difference that makes to the situations. All I can do is vote. And my vote in a state where I'm in the minority doesn't really count for much. So that's frustrating as well. So anyway, not a particularly cheerful time right now. So if you are interested in doing this, consider yourself tagged. No one tagged me. I tagged myself because I was looking for something to film tonight that I didn't have to get on the internet to do research for. So that being said, I want to address a different problem that is a personal problem, but it's a problem that most of you are going to have very little sympathy for, and I completely understand and don't blame you one bit. But I have too many books in my house, and a great many of them are not read and are not likely ever to be read because I continue to get more books each year than I'm able to read in a year. So the problem is exacerbated. Let me give you some numbers to back it up. When I started the BookTube Prize in 2019, my physical TBR list in my house was single digits. I probably had 8 or 9 books in my house that I hadn't read because I wouldn't store up books. When I ran out of books, I would go to the bookstore and buy 5 or 6 more, come home. When those were read, I'd go back to the library or the bookstore and get some more. But once I started getting books from publishers for the BookTube Prize, I get more books per year than, of course, make the field for the BookTube Prize. And I can't even read all 98 books that make the field in the BookTube Prize in a year, let alone those 98 and all the other ones that were sent to me that didn't make the field. I probably get about 150 books a year from publishers. So my physical TBR in the last 5 years, 5.5 years, has gone from 8 or 9 books to approaching 700 books unread books that are in my house. These aren't ones that I just hope to find someday. These are ones I physically have in my house. My shelves are full. I've got stacks on floors, which I hate. I don't have enough shelving for the books that I'm keeping and the books that I have yet to read. And I just need to realize the fact that I'm not going to read all these books. I need to start getting them out of my house. And so I'm pursuing a number of different pathways to do that. One of which is I'm going to give away some of them on this channel. So stay tuned for details. I have to work out the details for how I want to do book giveaways. Unfortunately, because of the cost of posting books, it's only going to be within the United States. I would love to send books all over the world, but it costs more than the price of the book to send a physical book from the United States overseas, which is dumb, but that's the way it is. So when I figure out how I want to do this and what books are going to be involved, maybe I'll do like what the whiskey channels do and do a live stream and just give away a bunch of books during the live stream. But I will let you know the details if you're interested in getting some free books. 99% of them are hardcover, most of which have never been read and probably won't be read by me. And so they're literally going to waste in my house and could be in somebody else's hands who wants to read them. So stay tuned. I'll come up with some details on book giveaways, and maybe I'll do a giveaway episode every month, or maybe we'll do a live stream every month where I sip on some whiskey and we chat and I give away some books for an hour, something like that. So stay tuned. I'll let you know. And I'm hoping that my internet comes on magically overnight so I can actually upload this video tomorrow and that you can see it on Friday. Otherwise, you'll see it whenever my internet allows me to upload it. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.